Over the weekend, we did see some, as Vince would like to say, quote unquote, geopolitical tremors and real life events, particularly out of the Middle East. And while this chat with Vince Scully today from Life Sherpa, hey Vince.
G'day Glen.
While this chat is more about superannuation, more about reacting, do we react or do we not react to global events? We're not going to talk politics and war and all that stuff. We're talking as a flashpoint that stuff happens and it makes us think, should we do something with our super? Should we not do something with our super? And I think, Vince, by the end of this episode, the three things that I want to talk about would basically be general investing horizons and maybe some strategic planning. Secondly, I want to talk maybe three groups of people. One, if you're, I won't say retiring, maybe ceasing work within 2 years, or call it retiring, whatever. Maybe it's a medium-term thing, or maybe you've got more than 5 years, or you're under 40, you're listening to this, or you're 52. And for those who have a longer runway, and then effectively, what do we do following this chat today and market jitters? Okay, so we'll set the scene. Over the weekend, and we are recording this, we'll date stamp it Monday the 2nd of March at about 1:30 p.m. Sydney time. Over the weekend, there was a thing in the Facebook group. My partner is worried about losing super with what's going on with Iran. His balance is in conservative balanced with plum and hasn't been impacted yet, so he's thinking of switching to cash before there are any losses. He's 63 and wants to retire in a year or two, has about 600K in super. Should he switch to cash or ride it out? So that's the first basis of this episode. The second basis, I did a post over the weekend that got a bit of spice in the Retire Right Facebook group, Vince, didn't it?
It did. It was up to 90-something.
Yeah, so look, I basically said, everyone just chill out, don't just move to cash for whatever reason. And there was a heap of comments on that post, and we've extracted some of those comments and we're going to talk about it because this is a show for you, the Retire Right community, so we'll include you in the discussion. But we're going to get into it right now. My name is Glen James, joined by Vince Scully, and you are listening to Retire Right.
This is a podcast that will help you plan and execute one of the biggest moments in your life. That's retirement. You'll learn how to set up your finances in a way that benefits you, your lifestyle goals, and keeps you in the know within this complex world of money and investing. Your host is Glen James, former financial advisor, author, and host of the popular Money, Money, Money podcast. Glen is joined by experts in various fields around the topic of retirement in Australia. Any advice in this podcast is of a general nature. Full details are in the show notes of this episode. You only retire once, so retire right.
Where do you want to take it from here, Vince? Do you want to start with maybe general horizons? And maybe I'll bring up that slide, the ASX 200 as a talking point. Where do you want to start?
Yeah, I think it's probably worth getting some facts on the table first. Obviously, it's early days.
Yeah.
But, since the events of Saturday night, our time, S&P 500 largest companies in the US, futures today are down 0.2%. Our ASX 200, the 200 largest companies in Australia, is down 0.5%, but it's still within 50 points of its all-time high, and it's up 1.25% for 5 days. The US dollar's up a tick, so the Aussie dollar today is trading at 70.6 cents, which is still close to its couple-of-year high. And the big moves, oil, unsurprisingly, up 13% and gold up 1.6%. So that goes to show that diversification matters. So if you had some gold in your portfolio, that's a bigger rise than the S&P 500 and ASX 200 fell. So these are not large movements by any measure.
No, and
I think could they become bigger moves? Maybe.
Yeah.
But right now, we're not seeing a major move. And I think that's probably consistent with the relatively contained nature of the event.
At the moment.
So far.
Yeah.
Where's the likely global impacts? Well, reasonably substantial oil producer. Most of it goes to China, our biggest trading partner. So, China catches a cold, we're going to get the flu here in Australia. We are, of course, big producers of gold, so that's a good move when gold goes up. So all of that says not a lot's happened so far. Could it get worse? Of course it could. Could it get better quickly? Potentially. This is likely to be a short-lived event. So that's the fact. Now the big question, which is what the question you asked me, well, what should we do about it?
And I think it's important to note that global war event, remember 4 years ago we were having these type of podcast episodes when Russia, Ukraine, that conflict commenced. We had these type of chats when Trump decided to put tariffs on everyone. We had these types of chats when COVID happened. The purpose that I want to get across today is when we see stuff in the media, when we see stuff on the news based on real world stuff, but also our previous thoughts and experiences, whether it's us or other people of hearing, when things get choppy, I lose my super or I lose half my super. So the question when the question was like, my partner, my husband, is worried about his 600 grand super. Should he move to cash? And that's regardless of Iran, COVID, a Trump tweet. It does speak to, well, what's the plan and what's the strategy here? And I basically said he won't be able to move fast enough to time the market, and that speaks to your super fund unit prices and delays in trading and all that stuff. So it's very hard to be exact. And I said if his strategy in 6 months ago wasn't to move his super to cash, why is it all of a sudden a strategy today based on an external fear thing? And I basically said they need to get some personal financial advice. And maybe in the interim, just to help with the comfort, we change our superannuation contributions just to cash only, because we will need to potentially build a cash buffer ready for retirement. But I just wanted and there was heaps of chatter, and we'll get to it, about people not agreeing with my advice. And, to be frank, I don't agree with a lot of my advice either.
Well, at least it was free advice.
That's right. But I think as a public policy, for me speaking to thousands of people, to Vince speaking to thousands of people, we actually have to be quite conservative with what we say. Now, you could be one out there who times the market and gets it right, but that doesn't mean because you do it right and your level of sophistication, my 72-year-old mother should log into her super today and withdraw it to cash.
Yeah, I think that's a fair comment. And if I was talking to whoever this person was, the first question this triggers is, if this is bothering you, are you in the right asset allocation? Now, she says that he's already in the conservative balanced, so I'm guessing that's a 60-40.
Yeah, 70-30 maybe.
Or 70-30 maybe. And you don't want to be too much more conservative for that, given that at 63, he probably has another 30 years of investing to go. And by moving to less growth, he'll be able to spend less in retirement. And so the first lesson I would say is, if this is bothering you, are you in the right asset allocation?
But also, Vince, there's a question there, and we're prepped to do this other episode coming up on Retire Right, when people at the time have got advice. He may have got advice to say conservative is for you, right?
Yep, possibly. Yep.
Now, if they're questioning that advice, was it ever completely understood when it was implemented?
Yeah. I mean, if it's in Plum, it's probably a corporate super plan.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
So probably,
and that's kind of
wasn't
irrelevant
advice.
on the manufacturer of the product. But
other than it's a corporate plan, so it's unlikely that he got advice moving into it. But the point being that growth is what give you your long-term returns. So you need some of it. If you don't have enough, you don't get enough returns. If you have too much, you run the risk of jumping at shadows. And the fact that he's 2 years out from retirement is sort of academic, because you're not going to spend it all on his 65th birthday. It's got to
And
last
that's one
for
of the
30
things. We don't retire, insert retirement date or age here, and the next day go click transfer money to bank account.
Yeah.
Like, it just doesn't happen in a reasonable reality. I mean, some people might do it, but that's probably because they don't understand.
Yeah. I mean, some people take a chunk out to pay off their mortgage, but there's no reason why you have to do it the same day.
That's right. Let's put up this slide, which is the S&P ASX 200 index. And it's kind of over the last 5 years, thanks to Yahoo Finance. See the two X's there, Vince? I want to now speak to short-term reactions based on external factors. Because in theory, we should set our strategy, and our retirement strategy and our investment strategy should be X, Y, Z. I don't know. Have you ever had a strategy when you've given financial advice, Vince, to say, well, if there's a global oil shock, we will move to cash. If there is this, we'll move to cash. No. But if it is the strategy, sure, play it out.
Yeah.
But if it's not the strategy, we need to go, well, what's our own goals and how do we react if there is uncertainty in markets?
Yeah, and that could be a very valid trading strategy, but it's not a long-term investing strategy.
That's right. And I think some of the people, when they get outraged with me giving crap advice, is I'm saying, look, generally we don't time the market. Now, if you are saying, I've got my super fund and I actively time the market with my account, knock yourself out. Go for it. But you can't be lobbing comments in Facebook groups telling other people they should do the same because they're not you. And that's your strategy. My whole premise was we don't log in and react out of fear. Now, on the right-hand side, you'll see this cliff here, Vince. That's the tariff April tweet. Yep. And this is just the ASX, and not everyone's portfolio will be 100% Australian shares. But effectively, how could have anyone timed that market reaction?
Yeah. And if you look at where your X is positioned, that was a couple of months before April 1 when the big announcement came out. So the market was anticipating that this was going to happen. So
there was jitters there. There was jitters there. Then he said, no, we're not doing it. And then when he had the board up with the press conference, his little easel thing, that's when that happened.
Yeah. And then, it recovered very quickly. They don't always recover that quickly. Yeah. Ask a Japanese investor in 1989 how quickly markets spring back. But on balance, they do. And bear in mind that this graph does not include dividends.
That's right.
So there's then 3.5% return on dividends.
So the problem if you're not a trader and you're not saying that I'm better than my super fund manager, so we'll carve those people out. If you're most of us, the rest of us, what we do, we say, well, if I was to try and get cute and go, well, there's jitters here and I'm going to move to cash tomorrow because the conflict in the Middle East is only going to get worse, I could time the market on the exiting. Could do that quite well, quite easy. Things are scary. We're at all-time highs with the ASX 200. I reckon I could pull money off the table and to cash, and then in the coming weeks, if it comes down, I'm a hero, well done. The problem is you've got to do it the right way to get back in. When is the bottom? Do you get the bottom on the right day? If you've got a big enough balance, Vince, a 2 or 3% swing in a day could just be catastrophic.
Yep.
In the way of catastrophic, wipe out the previous year's super guarantee.
Yeah. I mean, we've seen days when the market's moved 9%. Not recently.
I was going to say, was I a boy then? I started my career, GFC.
2008, yep. We had 3 days in October 2008 with greater than 9% swings.
Yep.
Yeah, you missed...
I mean, if you had a 600K portfolio, did you like your 60 grand?
Yeah. But the ups and downs often come very close together. That's the challenge with timing. That being out of the market on the bad days is a good thing, but being out of the markets on the good days is often worse, and they tend to come together. And so it's hard to avoid one without avoiding the other. That's a really tough call to get right.
So absolutely, if you want to time the market, knock yourself out, but you actually have to time it twice, getting out and getting back in.
Yeah. And
now,
being early is as bad as being wrong.
Because of the opportunity cost.
Yeah.
Because remember, everyone, as Vince said before, these share price charts and the stock trades and movements, and sure, we'll carve out a bit in unitized funds that could operate differently, but in the sense of it, if you had 100 CBA shares and the price went up and down, whether the price is going up or down, you're going to get a dividend still each year, twice. So you're still getting income from the asset. So Vince, if you are watching on YouTube, and this is kind of the only graph that we'll show if you are listening, see that X on the left-hand side in 2022?
Is that that's Ukraine, isn't it?
2, 3, 4, 5. Yes. Either way, I wanted to illustrate, start of 2022, we got a bit jittery. And then the ASX was pretty much flat for a couple of years. Good luck timing that.
Yeah, it's a really tough gig to pull off. I mean, people can and do it. And if you're a trader, there's money to be made on days like today.
Go get it.
And
most of us
if you're
aren't.
a trader, go get it. But that's not what your super is about. Your super is a long-term investment, and the money's made when you make the decision at the beginning. What's my asset allocation? What fund should I be in? What option should I be in? How much am I going to put in? That's the decision that makes the difference. Stuffing around on a day when the market's down 0.5% is rounding differences, and you're more likely to get it worse. So Peter Lynch, one of the greatest investors of all time, said that more money's lost preparing to avoid downturns than in the downturns themselves. And that is a very true statement.
If you're after personal financial advice, don't get it from a podcast. If you would like help based on your own personal situation, head over to retireright.com.au, click Get Help, and we'd be happy to introduce you to one of our trusted professionals. Our panel of vetted financial advisors and mortgage brokers work with people all over Australia, so they can connect with you wherever you are. That's retireright.com.au and click Get Help.
Okay, so if it doesn't feel like it, we're pretty much saying markets will be markets and we're investing for the long term and you got to let the portfolio do its thing. On this slide here, Vince, there's 3 comments and we might just have a quick chat about them to bring the community in and might have some practical outcomes. And I just will remind everyone, some of these questions you will need your own personal advice, but it's good fodder for people to talk with us about and for us to chat. Lynn said, assuming a decent drop this week, is now the time to top up super? I was planning on adding before the end of the financial year. Should Lynn turn on the beeper and back up and tip? I mean, I don't think, strictly speaking, even the markets today, I don't think it's compelling if you did have cash on the side waiting for a dip. You'd be probably looking for your 2%ers, but 2% drops. Yeah. However, Vince, if you've got that unitized fund, the timing of making the transfer to the super fund, if it's before the BPay cutoff and then the unit price gets changed daily of the fund, it could be 48 hours before you get that unit price of the fund.
Correct. And you won't know what the unit price is until after you tip the money in. But I think I'd put it in context. The Australian market is still up 1.25% in 5 days. So if you weren't doing this 5 days ago, what's special about now? If it falls another 5%, then absolutely you should be buying when the market dips. It's a difficult exercise to pick that in advance, but that's the point of dollar cost averaging, where you keep tipping it in.
Yeah.
And
I mean,
so-
if I was in Lynn's position and I had an amount that I wanted in before the end of June, I'm probably just putting an automatic, 4 months till June. Well, not even that. Well, yeah. May.
No, it is 4.
Yeah, it's 4.
Precisely 4.
I'm probably going to do it 4 times until June, or even you could do it weekly.
Yep.
Like just get it in. Just take the average price.
Yeah. And mathematically, the answer should be, well, put it all in now. Or put it
But
all
the
in
emotional
next week.
side.
But the emotional side says to me to, if it's a big amount of money, I'd be dripping it in.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't be trying to predict that today is the day.
Yeah. Another one here, Scott. Interesting. This was following my comment about everyone chill out. I just switched to another super fund and the money is sitting in cash. Financial advisor suggested I should move 20% each month into the new investment strategy. Do you think I should hold and wait to see how this unfolds? I mean, I don't think so. I think we just follow the plan. What do you think, Vince?
Yeah. I mean, I assume that there was a rationale for doing that.
Might have been be increasing the growth.
Potentially, yeah. I mean, ordinarily, if you're moving from fully invested to fully invested, the faster you do it, the better.
Yeah.
If this was a strategy to crank up or down growth, then gradually making that change makes sense. But the fact that the market's down 0.5% should not be a reason to change the plan. If your purpose hasn't changed and the plan hasn't changed, you shouldn't be changing the portfolio. If your purpose changes, your plan changes, then logically the portfolio changes.
And I will repeat it again for those at the back of the room. If your financials, if you are wondering, should I move my super to cash today or tomorrow, you don't have a actual strategy or plan for your retirement funds. If you're retiring in 5 years, 3 years, or 10 years, right? So you need to get a plan. And that's not being rude. I'm just like, I need you to start thinking, what do we do? Because there's moments like this, Vince, where things get jittery, where this is the time that we've trained for. We've got a plan. We're investing over the next 3 years, or we're moving super funds. If your plan does not say things like, move to cash if dropped by 20%, move to shares or more aggressive if it increases by 5%, if the oil price increases 13 to 20%, we're doing this. I mean, we just need to have a plan, however small, and stick to it.
Yep. And it's the plan that helps you survive these sort of periods.
Yeah. Another one here from Kim. What if you're getting a large amount of cash in the next 2 months? Hold off putting it in until the last minute in the financial year. 56-year-old, already retired, super below 500K, and will use all catch-up contributions this year. I mean, part one of that, Vince, is the market timing. Well, if we look at the market timing, you could move it all into super now into a cash option.
Yep.
And have it in the environment. And then go to town if you want to drip feed it every couple of days or whatever.
So this is a really good example. She has a plan. She's saying, my balance will get over $500,000 this June 30. Therefore, I'm going to lose my catch-up ability. So this financial year, I need to do this.
Yeah. So the strategy is key more than the actual market at the moment.
Yep. Now, having stuck to the plan, you can do exactly as you suggest. You say, well, look, I want to stick to my plan. I want to get it into super. Otherwise, I'll lose this on July 1. So if I want to hedge my bets, I'm going to stick it in cash inside super and then gradually drip it into a growthier investment. We don't know what
growthier, that's the technical term, isn't it?
That is a technical term.
Yes.
I don't know what her plan was, but if the plan strategy here is use catch-up contributions before they expire, then that's the plan. The fact that the market's down 0.5% today, or even if it was down 20, 30, 40%.
I still need it in super as part of the strategy.
The strategy is get into super. The second part of that strategy is, well, what do I invest it in once it's in super?
Yeah.
And she's got 4 months to make that decision.
Vince, let's now just drill a little bit deeper and talk about the actual investment options. There was 2 good comments here, one from Leslie. Just leave your super how it is. That's what fund managers get paid the big bucks for. And then Howie said, I would like to think that the financial strategists in the super funds are not asleep at the wheel and have contingency plans / planned accordingly for such scenarios, or am I just being naive? I think there's a couple of things there. I'll first say, Vince, we are talking these type of episodes more about our behaviours and selecting the right product, granted that the right product would have internal strategies and considerations for all global types of events.
Yeah, and I think the message here in these two comments is that that's what you're paying your fund manager to do. That's sort of a mistaken impression that if you're buying a long-term investment portfolio, you're not paying a fund manager to trade. You're paying a fund manager to manage your portfolio. And so if you're in one of the big funds, they will have decided that a balanced fund, 70% growth, is 30% in the US, say, making that up as an example. They're not going to change that just because, well, not materially. They're not going to jump to 5% just because there's an incident in the Middle East. They might be looking and within, or at least the guy who's managing the equity. So most funds, if you're in Host Plus, for example, every cent of that is outsourced to third-party managers who will have been given a mandate to probably be 100% invested in a particular strategy. And so they'll have engaged a US fund manager to invest in large cap US shares, and they will have a mandate to be fully invested probably. And so the strategy there is, well, do I think Facebook is better value than Google today? It's not, do I think US equities are good or bad? That's a portfolio management decision, and they're long-term decisions. They're not tactical day-to-day decisions.
And that's important because we need to, in all areas of our life, control what we can control. And we can control our strategy. We can control that, well, we believe based on our own situation, goals and lifestyle, our asset allocation is this. Then we outsource that to a quality fund manager. And it's probably worth noting, Vince, that, if you're invested in an Aware Super, an ART, or a Australian Super pre-mixed option, even a growth one, you might legitimately only have no more than 50% in Australian and international equities because there's a butt ton of property, a butt ton of unlisted shopping centres and airports. Your portfolio is going to have a pretty smooth ride with some of these, high-profile funds.
Yeah. And yes, it'll be down today, but it won't be down 0.5%.
No, that's right, because it's a portfolio and we don't have 100% of our money in Australian equities, international equities, or oil futures for that matter.
Yeah.
I mean, this stuff that's happening in the Middle East, I think it was broadly priced into markets given that America were moving hardware over there the last few weeks. I mean, we're probably going to get more of an impact of our day-to-day life at the petrol pump or when we want to turn on and watch the race on Sunday if there is any F1 cars in Melbourne.
Yeah.
So
this thought that your super fund manager is there, like they're on the set of The Wolf of Wall Street trading day in, day out, or Gordon Gekko. That's not what managing a modern portfolio looks like. These are big chunks of money and the shifts are small, and it's about delivering the return and managing the volatility. So there'll be, the underlying managers may be moving stuff around a little bit, but you won't see wholesale shifts from one asset class to another. That's not how funds management works.
Okay, so let's just bring it home. I want everyone to do a couple of things. Number one, if you're unsure if your superannuation is invested appropriately or you don't know, I'm scared, I hear stuff on the news, I see the ABC article and there's a rocket and they talk about oil shock and all this stuff. It's fair to say if you've got a significant asset, such as your superannuation, a lot of people listening might have $5, $6, $7, $1 million or more. I think you need some advice at some point. Now, am I a big believer in personal financial advice? I am, full disclosure. You've got some options. Call your super fund. They may give complimentary advice to you and your fund about asset allocation and investment options. Is that a fair statement, Vince? Like
Yep.
most of them will do a free intra-fund advice. That's an option.
Yeah.
You should
Obviously,
be
it
able to
doesn't take into account anything else happening in
No,
your life,
if you
but
want
it
to
will
say,
deal with
well,
your
should I
fund.
start? Yeah, if you want to go, should I salary sacrifice or put this extra money in? That super fund, I know one of the big ones in Australia that's an industry super fund, they'll probably charge you $3.5 to $4 to $5 anyway. But advice on your super and asset allocation, call your super fund. They may not charge you at all for that. It's another thing if you have to wait on the phone for an hour and they're busy, well, it's a complimentary service anyway, so welcome to life.
Yeah. And remember, it's not actually free. It's everyone else in the fund's paying for your advice.
That's right. If you do have a financial advisor and you are paying them an advice fee and you are worried, you need to get on the bloody email or phone today and get some clarity. You're paying for that.
Yep.
If you have a large superannuation balance and some things going on and you're just thinking, well, I think you're right, Glenn, we're not retiring right now in 2 years or in 3 or 4 years, we need to put a strategy in place. And I don't think it's logging in tomorrow and moving our super to cash and then trying to find an advisor in the next 18 months. Just, if in doubt, maybe just elect your future contributions to cash while you get an advice appointment. Because there's less harm done by that in the short term, right, Vince?
Yeah. I mean, my advice
you can disagree with me on that, but I'm just thinking as a triage urgency if we are really scared.
I mean, what I would say to anyone who's feeling edgy is to listen to your gut. Use this as an opportunity to understand how you really feel about risk. And we've had an extraordinary long, steady uptick in the markets for 15 years. This is unprecedented. And people have got complacent about risk. If you ask most people under 40 who've never lived through a downturn, they'll say, I'm an aggressive investor or I'm a high growth investor. But it's days like today where your gut's going to tell you what you really are, and you should listen to your gut. Now, that's not to say that you should rush out and hit the sell button, but it should be a message to you that go, well, actually, maybe I'm not an aggressive investor. And the consequence of that is you may need to save more for retirement, because the less that the return does the heavy lifting, the more your savings have to do the heavy lifting. There's a direct trade-off there, and you can't have one without the other. So use this as an opportunity to understand what your gut tells you about your appetite for risk.
And I'll paint a broad stroke because I'm such an artist, Vince.
Yes.
If you are maybe, I don't know, if preservation age is 60, that we can access our super if we stop working at 60, right? So if we call 60 the hard preservation age, I would go out on a limb, general advice only, blah, blah, blah. If you're 52 or under, you want to be working on your risk profile to get to the point where you're comfortable with a growth style investment.
Yeah. Or
if you're around
back
50,
it off a bit.
Or whatever. All I'm saying is if you've got 10 years before you can even touch the money, well, it's by default not touchable. So why not invest it for the next 8 to 10 years? Noting that at age 60, we don't just go click withdraw, I'm retiring and put it in the bank account.
Yeah.
And then leading up to that age 60, 3 years out where you're still working, when you go to an advisor, there might be a strategy. We keep it invested. We're just putting contributions into cash over the next 3 years while you're working.
Yeah. So you do have to be careful of that 5-year either side of retirement. That is the Kenny Loggins zone, the danger zone, and be aware of what you're doing. But that doesn't mean you go to cash, because a decades of lost returns is going to cruel your retirement. So it is about making that trade-off between how much I want to spend in retirement, how much I'm going to save while I'm working, and how much I want the returns to do the work. And the more you want the returns to do the work, the more risk you have to take.
Yeah.
And if your stomach's not up to that, you will not realize that expected higher return. So getting that balance right is the secret to making this all work. And doing that on your own is a non-trivial exercise.
Yeah. And part of my post in the Facebook group, I said, if you did have $6, $7, $8, $9, or $1 million invested in your super fund, and you did spend, and I'll make a number up, Vince, $7,500 on strategic personal financial advice. If you did spend that, you're probably, I reckon you'd have a better outcome if you are worried, because if you're like, I don't want to spend $7,500, I'm going to manage this myself. During the day, I work down at bloody, I don't know, Anaconda stacking kayaks, which is awesome. Not saying that's a bad job. It's just down the road. And you're like, well, I'll take my portfolio management into my own hands and I can do this. I don't want to pay $7,000. You get this wrong, you could have a $60,000, $70,000, $80,000 whoops from market returns and moves.
Yeah.
Which
and
is,
if you do have
I think, a bit higher than $7,500.
Yeah. And if you do have $1 million portfolio, you're probably paying Australian Super $9,000 a year for portfolio management.
Yeah. So in finishing, there was a bit of spice in the group, Vince, you know?
Yes, I like a bit of spice.
And I thought I'd leave this at the end because if you're still listening and you don't like me, thanks for helping me make money, because your engagement with someone that you don't like and who gives bad advice, it's helping me anyway. So thanks for the comments and the hate.
The algorithm loves spice.
So Alan said in the group, your quote-unquote advice doesn't applying to everyone, but thanks anyway. Remember, if you're going to have a go at me, make sure your grammar's on point. That's right. It doesn't apply to everyone. It's general advice. So by nature, literally doesn't. Peter said, I'm sorry, but I don't agree with everything you have written here, as I said at the start. Yeah, cool.
Did he make some alternative suggestions?
No. He did talk about, and there was another person, and I can talk about it now because I wasn't going to embarrass them, but they have deleted their comments from the post, what I said was rubbish and that they timed the market and they were the perfect investor. And we got into a semantics chat with fees around super funds and all that stuff. So they've since deleted their comments. But if you're that sophisticated to be timing the market and doing all that stuff, you don't need to be listening to this content. Yeah. Like, why stress yourself out with listening to some idiot like me who's got no idea what he's talking about? Like, why are you in these circles where if you're so superior? And I had a look at this person, what they wrote coming into the Facebook group, and it's like, what do you want to learn more about? They basically said how to maximize getting age pension. So if you're having a run at me, saying that I'm useless and I'll only listen to you, Glenn, if you've got over a $4 million net worth and all that stuff, and you are wondering how to maximize your age pension, by definition, you're not a sophisticated person, because if you were that good, you'd be printing money with your investing. So if you're going to have a run at the king, don't miss.
And if you are that good, I might have a job for you.
That's right, yeah. Please reach out because we
resumes to vince@lifesherpa.com.au.
Well, that's what I mean. Like, if they're that good, I would pay them to personally manage my money. I'll take it from your portfolio, Vince. Yep. So it's disclosure.
I take it from my portfolio.
Yeah, disclosure, I invest in Vince's Life Sherpa Invest. So just everyone chill the F out. Like, just because you are sophisticated and you can perfectly time the market, and the minute people start going, don't follow information because everyone's a sheep, most of those people who make comments like that, guess what? You don't have the ideal life that I want to live up to anyway. Like, I've never met someone with a conspiracy hat on saying everyone's a sheep and I'm perfect and time the market. Most people's lives like that, I don't want to aspire to. So anyway, just getting that off my chest.
And this is not the time of year to be a sheep either. Easter's coming up very quickly.
Exactly. We will leave it there. Hey, everyone, thank you so much. Let us know. Rip me to shreds in the YouTube comments. Go for it. Guess what? Because it only helps me make money. At me. Like, go on. It just helps with the engagement. Just why do you waste your time listening and reading content from someone that you don't like or has crap advice? My mind is literally blown, Vince.
It is. And if you give bad advice, I go to jail. So
that's right. Vince licenses this show. That's why I get Vince for all the hard stuff. Anyway, thank you so much. My name is Glen James, joined by Vince Scully from Life Sherpa Invest. You only retire once, so Vince, guess what? You need to retire right. Yeah, that's the one.
Right.
All right.
That's right. But I've retired more than once, so there's the breaks the rule. But the next time I'll do it right.
Yeah, you better. All right. Bye.
Bye.
Any advice is general financial advice only, which does not take into account your objectives, financial situation, or needs. Because of that, you should consider if the advice is appropriate to you and your needs before acting on the information. If you do choose to buy a financial product, read the Product Disclosure Statement, PDS, and Target Market Determination, TMD, and obtain appropriate financial advice tailored to your needs. Simo Interactive, Pty Ltd, and Glen James are authorised representatives of Money Sherpa Pty Ltd, which holds Financial Services Licence 451289. Martin McGrath, Financial Edge Group, and its employed financial advisors are authorised representatives of Synchron Advice, AFSL 243313. Opinions or comments from any guest on the podcast are theirs, and not those of the hosts, the publisher, or their respective licence holders.